So we come to the end of our Life in Lockdown series. We've been looking at Paul's experience in a prison cell writing to the Philippians. In one of the most dark, depressing moments of his life, joy bubbles up and amazing truth comes out of him. And I don't know about you, you might be looking at the year 2020 and you might be thinking that this year is a blowout year, that nothing special is going to happen during this year. And I'm sure Paul felt like that. I'm sure he thought, what am I doing? This is the most unproductive season of my life. And yet, from that prison cell, words of truth went out that have impacted billions of lives over the course of history. So who knows what treasure God is going to bring out of our lives during this time. And we're going to focus in on his closing comments in this letter to the Philippians, where he talks about prayer. He talks about his position in God. He starts off with a therefore, which every old time preacher will say, you've got to look what the therefore is there for. And it's there because he's spoken about resurrection. He's spoken about the fact that we have a whole new way to be human, that we are free. And he comes to this point in verse 6, where it says in the Passion Translation of the Bible, it says, don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing, but be saturated in prayer throughout each day, offering your faith-filled requests before God with overflowing gratitude. Tell him every detail of your life. Then God's wonderful peace that transcends human understanding will make the answers known to you through Jesus Christ. I love that phrase, be saturated in prayer. My boy Luca and his buddy Beck have just started a car cleaning business. Free bit of advertising for them here, doing an amazing job. But the first time that they cleaned a car, I noticed that Luca, when he cleaned the wheels, which let's face it, are the part of the car that picks up the most grime, the most dirt, because it's what has the most contact with the outside world, if you like. When he tried to clean those, he tried to clean it having used a minimal amount of water, and of course the dirt just flicked up from the brush all over him. He was speckled by the end of trying to clean this wheel. And very quickly, Luca learned that those wheels needed to be saturated. They needed to be soaked to get that grime off of them. And it's no different for our lives that are in contact with the outside world and pick up grime and pick up dirt. Sometimes we need to come to God and to just be saturated. The Bible talks all over about the presence of God, and as a church community, we love to talk about the presence of God. But that word presence in Hebrew is the word panim, and it's a word that refers to the face of God. It's this idea of living with your life oriented towards God's face. And in Hebrew, the face speaks to us of favor. God calls us into a relationship. Prayer in its essence is about communication. It's not about method. We struggle because we reduce prayer down to this idea that we have to have a devotional, quiet time. Most of our most intimate communication comes in all kinds of different forms. Sometimes it is in silence. Sometimes it is just being with another person that we communicate the depth of our soul. God invites us into that kind of relationship. Whilst I believe in practicing the presence of God, many of you will have read that book by Brother Lawrence, we also need to have time where we are just intimate with God. And that is the antidote to not being anxious. Paul says, don't be distracted. Don't be pulled in all kinds of different directions. Oh my goodness, do we ever live in a time where we are pulled in all kinds of different directions? Whether it is our social media feed, our news feed, the propaganda machine of advertising that tells us we've just got to have the latest device or binge watch the latest series. We are being told all the time what we need. And all of these things create anxiety within us. And anxiety comes when we position ourselves as the father in the household rather than as the child. My children don't worry about where their food is going to come from. They don't worry about whether or not they've got a roof over their head tonight, because they know that they have parents that are looking out for them and looking after them. When we come into a place of prayer, we recognize that we have a Father who is looking out for us and looking after us. And so prayer is the antidote, but the result is peace. Paul says that peace will guard their hearts and minds. And the word that he uses, guard, is a word for it's a military term, for like a garrison, a castle, a fortress. The peace of God that passes understanding comes when our life is saturated in his presence. I spoke with my friends in Lebanon yesterday. Many of you will have watched the news and been rocked by the terrible explosion that happened on the docks of Beirut that left that city devastated right now. And our friends Nuna and Michelle, Triumphant Mercy, are responding. They are providing food and aid and relief and want to build shelters in that place. And I said to them, how are you doing in the middle of all of this? And they said, we feel shaken, but we are at peace. Where does that come from? I tell you, that comes from a life that is saturated in prayer. That comes from a life that is hidden in God. So, Arun Church, as we look to the next few weeks and as we look at what life coming out of lockdown might look like, may you know the saturation of God's presence, his face of favor shining towards you, and may that garrison and guard your heart as you step out into the next season. God bless you.